Hey, this is Rob. I have a really quick tutorial for you. It's how to make a dodecahedron in Fusion 360. And there are probably a bunch of ways to do it, but I'm going to use the patch workspace. If you don't typically use the patch workspace, this kind of can maybe be an introduction or a reminder of how you could use patches or surfaces to make a solid body. So I'll go to the patch workspace to start out, and I'll create a sketch on the top work plane. And I'll create a polygon. The size doesn't matter too much right now because I'll add a dimension later, but I do want to change the number of sides to 5. And all the lines are blue, which means I can kind of resize and rotate. The ideal thing is to get this to be fully constrained, so I'll make sure that this curve is horizontal. And I'll also just give this some dimension by hitting the D key. So I'll just say it's 1 inch. And now everything's turned black. That's a good sign. I'll hit stop sketch. And now I have a sketch, but I want to create a patch body from that. So I'll click this button and choose the sketch profile. I'll hit OK, and now you can see I have a surface body here, a patch body, and I also have the original sketch, which I'll show by choosing the light bulb near it. So now the next thing to do is to create another one of the sides to this shape. And to do that, the easiest thing I think is to just copy and paste. So now I've got a second one. I'll just hit OK, which means that it's sitting right on top of the other one. I could have moved it into position right then, but I'm going to do it as a separate operation. So I'll right click and choose move. And then I'll just choose rotate. It's asking me for an axis that I want to rotate around, and I can just choose this edge here. So now you can see I'm sort of flipping it up. And I'll put a link to a website that shows you how to calculate the angle, but the spoiler is that it's just 116.6. So I've got two sides, and the next thing I want to do is just take this upright side here and rotate it around the center. To be able to rotate it, I need an axis that I want to rotate it around. So I'll choose to create an axis perpendicular to face at point. I'll choose the face, and I'll choose the point, and there I go. So now I'll go to create, pattern, circular pattern. Choose, I want to make sure that I'm patterning bodies here. I can choose that body either from here or in the browser. And then I just choose the axis. And I think I'll need 5 of them, and hit OK. So that's it. I've got half of my dodecahedron. So now I'll just select all of those bodies and right click and choose move again. And right away I'll choose create copy. If you start messing around with options up here, sometimes that create copy gets grayed out. So I want to make a copy of these, and you can see it immediately does it in the browser there. What I'm trying to do is rotate. But rotating is looking for an axis to rotate around, and you'll see my strategy in a second, but the way that I do it is just to click free move and then choose a pivot point, which is that center of the bottom face right there. That point is really easy to click because I've still got my sketch on, and there was a point there. And then once I've got the pivot point, I have to choose the check mark. If you don't do that, it gets pretty frustrating. And then I can just rotate it 180 degrees. So now I've got the two halves. Obviously they're not in the right position, and if I just move this up to the top, the points would be touching and not kind of intermeshing the way I want. So maybe the next step is to rotate it or spin it around that axis. By how much? I think it's just 180 degrees divided by 5. And, oh, shouldn't have done that. I should have moved it one more time. Let me just do that by selecting all of those again and choosing move again. And the last thing I want to do is right here, choose point to point move, and I can just say that this point right here should land right on that point there. So I'll hit OK, and that's it. I've got all of my faces in there in the right positions, and the last thing I need to do is stitch them together. So I'll hit stitch here, and I should be able to just select everything. It says 12 selected, so that's my 12 faces, and I can hit OK. That's it. Now I have a single solid body instead of all of those separate 12 patch bodies. That's about it. And just to show you that now I have a solid body that I can work with in the model workspace, I'll go over there and maybe do something like a shell. So I'll modify shell, choose that top face, and say that maybe I want a thickness of 50 thousandths of an inch. And now I've got a hollow vase or something, or whatever it is. If it is a vase or a salt shaker or something, maybe I need some holes in the bottom, so it's really easy to just work with this like any other solid model. So I could put a hole here that's 1/8 of an inch in diameter and hit OK. And then because I have my axis here as a construction line, I should be able to just create a circular pattern of that feature. There it is right there. That's the whole feature. So I'll select that whole feature and then choose the axis that's going through the middle, and then just say how many of them I want and hit OK. So that's about it. That's how you can use patches to make a solid body, and specifically how to make a dodecahedron if you need that. Thanks.